All right, guys, and welcome back to. Oh no, wait! It's episode 104. Let me try that again.
I thought you were about to forget the name of our podcast. I was like, the Impact Defense Podcast.
No. Just like which episode we're on.
I have no idea.
I know it's 104.
Huh?
Okay.
I had a great uncle that made it to 104.
Really?
He didn't know it, I'm sure, but.
Okay, so we have our recurring guest and very good friend, Stephen, back
That's
on
a very
the podcast.
funky intro segment.
Yeah.
I dig it. That bass goes hard.
Yeah. Things have changed a little bit since you've been on the podcast. Everybody has their own mic.
I like it.
You got headphones. Our sound is a whole lot better. So recently, I've been interviewed on about 3 other podcasts. And usually it's about some type of self-defense thing. Usually most of them, though, we just hit 100 episodes, so I think that might be part of it. But the Life Tech and Sundry podcast, I was actually on 2 episodes of that. Then Conversations with Strangers, and then Rabbit Holes was another one. It's just like really kind of random. Anyway, every single case, these guys have listened to several of our episodes, and they said, my gosh, what are you guys doing? Because your sound keeps getting better. I was like, well, we're just like reinvesting and everything. Yeah. So that's good, though. It's good to know that we're actually sounding better as we go.
It makes sense. I like this. This is neat. It feels really official. I kind of feel like I'm on a newscast more than a podcast, but I dig it.
Yeah.
I personally feel like our focus has gotten a whole lot better since having the microphones and these, because it's not like we're just sitting around a table talking and going down rabbit holes and stuff. It's we can actually focus a little bit more on the podcast because we're constantly reminded. It's like, oh yeah, we're supposed to be professionals.
This is like a fish phone crap.
I really thought hearing myself was going to be a problem. I wasn't looking forward to it, and it's fine.
And now you enjoy it, right?
Yeah, you can hear yourself in real time, and there's no delay. It's really nice.
Yeah, Stephen was really scared about that. He said, wait, can we hear ourselves in these
I wonder if there's a way to program a delay into this and just see how we do on a podcast.
I don't think that would be a good podcast.
It would be
I'd be
terrible.
like, actually, one of the podcasts I was on, there was times when I would hear myself on a delay, and it completely threw me off. I was horrible. I was like, yeah, everything was going really good. And I just had this moment, brain not work. What wrong?
Yeah,
I've
it's
had
like when somebody has you on speakerphone and you can hear yourself back through the phone. Yeah.
I've had that happen when I was trying to make an appointment one time, and I'm pretty sure they thought I was insane because it was just every now and then I'd stop and then try to repeat what I said, and then remember that I'm just hearing myself on a delay, and you could hear the lady on the other end really questioning who she was listening to, but I'm like, I can't.
It's like when you call into a radio station, they tell you not to listen to yourself because it'll destroy you every time. It'll give you that mental dyslexia, and it'll just you won't be able to talk anymore.
All right. So the topic of our podcast today, we're gonna we'll just sit here and just talk forever, and our entire podcast would be nothing but us just running our mouths about random stuff. But our topic of our podcast is going to be the importance of medical training. If you are training for self-defense.
Yeah, super important.
It is super, super important. Before we get to that, let's talk about a couple things. Number 1, Blackout Coffee, the official fuel of Impact.
Absolutely.
So you haven't had any. We'll probably get you some the next time you're on.
You listeners have absolutely zero idea how much of this stuff we drink.
Yeah, that's true.
They buy their own empty Keurig pods to fill with the Blackout Coffee.
Yeah.
They fill it with it themselves, and all of them just jitter all the time. Everybody visibly shakes. They really have to keep it under wraps for the podcast. It's
pretty awesome.
Yeah, they've replaced it entirely with water. Other than the kidney stones, there's no side effects, and they absolutely love it.
Clear minds.
Yeah,
there's that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because it's coffee. All right.
Actually, I saw he drank 2 cups of it and then caught a fly with chopsticks. Brian's never used chopsticks before.
I'm pretty sure my husband wishes that we never invested in it because I come home entirely too awake and too talkative. I never come home talkative otherwise. I'm just don't speak to me. I've been around people all day. So when I get home now, it's like, hey, this and this and this happened. And I talked to this person today, and I'm actually feeling fairly good for the end of the day. He's like, how much coffee have you had? Like, enough to feel alive and well.
So, yeah, anyway, we've talked about it a lot. Let me just go ahead and say you can get that 2 different ways. Oh, my lid was not screwed on correctly. We're just going to have to unscrew that, and I'll have to drink some. Anyway, you can get that 2 different ways. You can go to impactgear.live/coffee, or you can just go straight to blackoutcoffee.com. And either way, make sure you use the coupon code ImpactDefense and get you 10% off.
80% of doctors in New Jersey will allow you to use it as a sleep replacement. Only New Jersey doctors.
Oh, New Jersey doctors.
Only New Jersey doctors.
All right.
They're not real doctors.
If they don't smell like hair grease, don't trust them.
40% of chiropractors will tell you.
Okay. So anyway, we had a discussion right before we started recording. Steven always has like the best stories from work. Steven is a law enforcement officer. Mm-hmm. Actually, why don't you do a really quick, just in case people didn't hear like the 5, 6, 9 episodes that you've been on. I can't remember now. I said them all. I said every number that you've been on for episode 100.
Right.
And then I forgot how many that was now. So
yeah, it's been several, but at minimum 2. But so yeah, what I've been with you, I don't
forever?
know how I am. Yeah.
I don't know how I am. So
16 years. I don't know. I'm looking at my watch like I was like judged by the date and tell you how long I've been here. 16 days, 16 years, 11 months and 4 days, something like that.
Sounds about right.
But essentially, I've trained with Brian for roughly 16 years, give or take.
Give or take 3 years.
Yeah, give or take 3 years, which, but I come back for, kind of a reoccurring. I just have belated attendance sometimes.
Yeah.
Or always, it's fine. Other than that, with 2nd degree black belt in Kyokushin karate, though I think I've raked in just about everything else that we've done here for the most part, other than just like the forms type stuff. All the stuff that matters. And, other than that, done a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments and stuff like that. Trained strictly Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for about 3 years or so under Kevin Piles and Mount Airy, under American Martial Arts Training. Kevin Piles, great dude. Also been in law enforcement for the past 5 years. Going to be going on 6 very soon. We're going on 6 now, I think. Anyway, but last 5 years been in law enforcement, and it's been a wild ride. Been able to apply a lot of the stuff that I've learned. A lot of it's really come in handy, even just outside of the fighting aspect. Just being able to control people, move them around, understand body mechanics, proprioception, that kind of thing. Just awareness of your body and the space that you encompass and what's around you. Balance. All these things kind of come into it and are really handy. And a lot of people see martial arts as like, it'll make you better at fighting, but it'll also make you better at most other things too. Yeah, makes you better at standing up. Like like you're better balanced.
I'll never forget. You were young and a kid, mm-hmm. and I think it was your sister told me. She said, my mom just thinks you're awesome. I said, oh, really? She said, yeah. She goes, we were standing there, and she said, Look over, look how well he's standing, how straight up and down he's standing, and all this. And she said, I was like, I never really thought about the fact that martial arts has improved my posture and stuff like that. But that's true. It really does. I just stand,
Yeah, and
I
improves
used
your
to have
posture.
a slouching problem.
Do what?
I used to have a slouching problem.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And,
you're confident you're going to stand straighter anyway. So
yeah, exactly. And, just if there's anything that's going to improve your confidence, just the being fairly certain that you're not going to get beat up is one of them. Like, if I was going to get beat up, somebody would have to try like really hard or have buddies.
Well, you're also like a pretty big dude. There was that whole thing is like, oh yeah, when he started, he was like a lot smaller than me, and now I have to look up to him, and now he's a lot less fun to fight.
It'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah.
But you did a good job of an instructor if you made me less fun to fight. Like,
I know. That's always the dilemma of an instructor.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, don't lie. You like a difficult fight.
Oh, I do. I know. I'm just saying. It's just that's the dilemma of an instructor, and that's why you hear about these people.
Also, sometimes that's just not what you want. Like, it's just not the day for like just a friendly knockdown, drag out.
Yeah. Some days it's a lot of fun. Other days I think I told the story on the podcast where a student of mine clipped me and dropped me, but I grabbed him by my legs and take him down, and didn't let him know that they had actually, that was Steven. Mm-hmm. I didn't tell him until much later. That's like, yeah, you actually dropped me. He caught me with a hook around the jaw. Yeah. And that was that point when Steven became a lot less fun to fight. It's like, oh crap, I've got to really seriously try or Steven's going to knock me out.
Like Brandon Wolf, R.I.P. That's the best video too, because I kicked him in the face and then I thought he was joking as he's falling on the ground. So I'm laughing at him
no, we were all laughing at him.
Yeah. And I was like, oh wait, no, that was serious. I thought he was making fun of me. This is just within his personality.
You just called that glancing blow. Yeah, he would kind of put on things sometimes just for a joke.
Yeah, And I was like, oh, and he's like, ow, you chipped my tooth. And I'm like, oh, well. Sorry.
Okay, so anyway, all that to say that Steven always has really good, funny, hilarious stories from work. So in lieu of a new segment, we're going to have a recurring segment every time Steven is on, and that's going to be just a fun work story.
Right.
Story time with Steven.
Story time with Steven.
I think we need to find an actual theme song for Steven.
Probably, but this was kind of like we just decided right before then. So
yeah, I'll say I like it. You got the buttons on.
Yeah,
yeah. So anyway, for some stupid reason, they decided they were going to make me a field training officer because they wanted to make more people like me. Basically, I talk trash all the time, and I'm pretty unprofessional, and I think a lot of places I would have been fired, but it's a pretty, they think it's funny, so they kind of let me do whatever I want. I wish that wasn't true. But,
that's the system of America.
But genuinely, I've come to realize that I'm pretty sure I won't get written up for anything as long as I admit to it immediately. I just get in front of it, right? So if I do something, I'm like, hey, I cuss this person out or whatever the deal is. And I'm like, hey, I was really rude to this person. And so I'll just call the sergeant immediately. I'm like, hey, they're going to complain. And usually it's just people complain sometimes. So I'm like, well, this one's valid. And if it's funny, it's pretty much just a free pass. Right?
Okay.
I've had a dude call the news on me.
Really?
Yes,
no, I did not know
because I was so rude to him. I compared him to a 16-year-old girl to his face. Now that's a story for another time. But he called the news and made this whole big stink, and my name was directly involved, and I'm the chief's office, and I'm like, Chief, it wasn't wrong. And he's like, yeah, I know. And I was like, and y'all know better to put me there. And he's like, you were the only one working at the time. And I was like, look, I'm just saying. I asked, the sergeant, I was like, are you sure you want me there? And he's like, you're the only one working right now to do it. And I'm like, okay, but you asked for this. So anyway, they made me a field training officer, and that's cool. I went through the school and stuff like that, and they gave me this new kid. Now, new kid's, kind of whereas I am 6'2" and about 265-ish, of just twisted steel and sex appeal. He's about the same height. He's about 6'2", but he's 135. So, wow. Which is awesome, because if I ever need anybody to go in through a window in people's houses and stuff, I can just bench press him up and push him through. I don't have to climb through anymore. It's awesome.
That's nice.
But on the other hand, he's I can almost touch my fingers around his waist. He's so tiny, and really good dude. Turns out he's a good dude. But so I'm like, well, he's small, so he's got to be scrappy. There's no other option. Because people just look at you and just be like, oh, a strong gust of wind and your ass over tea kettle, and but it's so they're gonna try him. So I'm like, okay, well, anything that they got. So I called the other agency, and I'm like, hey, if y'all have anything going on, I'm a really good friends with the sergeant there. I'm like, hey, if y'all have anything going on, just holler at us. That way we can kind of double up on just really crappy calls that he gets to have. And that way he gets to, experience as much crappy stuff as humanly possible. So we can just kind of test this kid's mettle. And so he calls me and he's like, hey, and I knew that, hey, it was we got something stupid. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, well, we got an IVC. It's an involuntary commitment. And he's like, and this woman loves to fight. And I was like, yeah? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, we'll be there with the new kid. So, we go get in the car, vroom, and we get there, and I'm on the way, and he's like, hey, what's going on? And I'm like, don't worry about it. I was like, they got an IVC. They just want some backup on. I just want you to know, I just want to test, you to see kind of where you're at. And I just want you to be the first person in the room and to make contact. I didn't tell him what we were doing, but I just told her, it was like, first person in the room and make contact.
So you didn't tell her she was a fighter or anything?
No. I just wanted it to be a surprise. Now, like, he's not going to be by himself. Like, he had me, he had the sergeant and the corporal there too. Like, those are all dudes that I trust with my life. Like, they're great dudes, but like, I just think it'd be really funny. And so we push him in the room first. We get there, and the guys, the sergeant's over there talking to her dad or something like that. And so we're like, oh, okay, well, she's in there sleeping. Let's go ahead, go get her. So I'm like, oh, buddy, you first, new kid. And so new kid goes on in, and he's like, ma'am, he's new. He doesn't know to be like, hey, up, so, we wake her up, and so we're like, hey, you got to go to the hospital. And now she is like, threatened to kill herself on Snapchat. She's done all this stuff, and she was like carrying a noose around by the bridge and was like going to hang herself. And she's like, I just did it for attention. And I'm like, oh, the IVC order's out now. Like, we got to go to the hospital. If they say you're good to go, you're good to go. We don't care. But like, come on, we got to go.
Yeah.
And so she just doesn't like it. And we're like, oh, get up out of the bed. And so now, we didn't know this at the time. Now she's in the bed, she's undercover, she's got a shirt on, but she's got no pants and like not a stitch on from the belly button down, right? And so she goes and she kicks the blankets off and just flashes everybody. And it's in law enforcement, it is never the ones you want to see naked. It never is. It's crazy. Like, it's a little bit traumatizing. Like, you'll have nightmares about it sometimes. It's really bad. And so she flashes everybody, jumps up onto the bed. I really don't remember how she got up, but like she didn't like kip up like a ninja, but like she was up on her feet really fast, and she's standing on the bed and grabs a Dr. Pepper, right? She's Dr. Pepper on the nightstand, grabs it. Now she's had all these shots of Fireball around, and like she's tried to take like 2 of them, and I think why she got so mad is we took one away from her, and I'm like pouring them in the toilet, and I'm like, she doesn't need these. Like, the last thing she needs is to be suicidal and drunk, right?
Yeah.
This bad news bears. And so she jumps up on the bed and she's looking around and just stares at the new kid, which I guess he was the smallest one. He looked like he was the easiest to fight. Everybody else is like, we big boys, at least 200 pounds, And so she just goes, takes a swig of the Dr. Pepper and just starts throwing it at him. Now it didn't hit him, but it was definitely in his general direction.
Now, like the whole bottle, or was she just spraying Dr. Pepper on him?
Oh no, it was like the whole bottle. She like slung it back and forth. You ever tried to get the last bit of ketchup out of the ketchup thing, and so you like do the arm fling with the it was that, but with the Dr. Pepper bottle. Gotcha. Okay. And with more salt. And and then she jumps off the bed and like looks around, realizes she jumped to the wrong side of the bed and there's no exit on that side, and then tries to run through Roberts. Well, Roberts is kind of thrown off by the experience because he's never really dealt with anything like this anymore. So it's like, why does this lady not have pants on? Why is she trying to throw Dr. Pepper at me? Why did she jump off the side of the bed and then look really confused? And then, she basically tried to like tackle him. So I'm like, get him, new kid. I shouldn't have used his name, but whatever, it's fine. And, so, I'm like, get him, new kid. And like, so he goes and grabs her, and then it's him and the corporal. And they're like, corporal goes to help him out because he's nicer than I am. I was just kind of going to let him struggle for a minute and like, I wouldn't let him get hurt. Just like, it's funny. And, so, they're fighting her, and they go and they get her into handcuffs, and she's yelling like, I hate you. I'm going to kill you, and blah, 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 blah. And then she just limp. And we're like, that's not like normal. I don't want to go to the hospital. That's like, she breathing. Turns out she's epileptic. She had a seizure and just passes out. So now she's become like 150 pounds of pudding with sticks in it. And so she went immediately from fighting to like wet noodle. And so they've like got her in handcuffs, and they're like, what do we do? And I'm like, well, throw her on the bed. Like, don't just stand there with her. Like, secure her airway, do something other than like, because she's just a puddle. And so I throw her on the bed, and we're like, well, she's just completely unconscious, and so my new kid's literally like staring at her like she's gonna move. Like I know she's gonna move, but he's like standing right by her feet, like in like face kick distance, and I'm like, bro, back up. And he's like, what? And I'm like, back up. And he was like, but if she does anything, I'm like, back up. And he's like, why? And I was like, because if she does anything, she's going to kick you in the teeth. And he's like, oh yeah, it's a good idea. So EMS finally comes, they get her checked out, and like, so she's really calm now. I guess a seizure does that to you. Like, you know, it's you know, she was really tired after that, and so naturally she had to go to the hospital still. So we made the new kid ride in the car with her because it's funny. And you know, we weren't even in our jurisdiction, but I was like, Roberts, make sure she doesn't hurt anybody. And he's like, do I have to? And I'm like, yes.
Ride with the half naked lady.
Yeah, ride with the half naked lady. Yeah. And yeah, that's not the first time he's had to deal with half naked IBC ladies. But you know, that's definitely the most appropriate story.
So, yeah. So I just think this needs to be a recurring theme. Every time you're on, you have to tell some type of story.
Yeah, we definitely do. I think I need to go buy a new laptop or something like that and just get Microsoft Word. For some reason that costs like $1 million. But do you ever like price Microsoft? It's crazy. Anyway,
no, I only use the free word process.
Oh yeah,
Apple.
Yeah, like OpenOffice.
No, Pages comes with a MacBook or any kind of Apple product.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, because of the art stuff that I've done in the past, I've always been kind of an Apple guy. So
yeah, that's true. That makes sense. But you know, it's expensive. But I essentially just want to keep stories that are like really funny, and then just have some people throw in on them and stuff like that. And I figure if I get through a 20-year career, I'll have a lot of really dumb stories, and I'll just publish it as a book.
I think you could do that. I honestly do.
I'd read it.
And then you need to come back on here and promote your book, because I would definitely read it. Yeah. But then I think you need to do an audiobook version where you definitely read it. Because I don't think anybody else, if they read it, it would have the same kind of drive as when you're telling the story.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's that.
There would be like, small segment would be like, oh, watch what this stupid MFer does.
All right. So let's actually get into the meat of the podcast.
Right.
So first off, let's just cover, why is kind of medical training really important for someone who is concerned about self-defense?
I think not just for people who are concerned about self-defense. I think it's really important for everybody.
I mean, I do too. But,
yeah, like, because we got like all this red stuff in our body that allows us to live. And if we lose enough of that, you just die.
Yeah.
And it can happen to anybody. Like, you can fall off a ladder and then break your femur and then bleed internally and just be dead.
Yeah.
And they're just like, why is one leg bigger than the other? Oh, it turns out it was an arterial bleed because he shattered his femur and then severed that. And now he's just like dead. RIP to Uncle Ted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just nothing, you know. So it's important for everybody. But, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, our podcast is geared toward people who like care about self-defense kind of things.
Yeah, but definitely for the defensive minded, if you're interested in self-defense, you should be, you know, interested in preservation of life.
Exactly. Yeah.
Essentially, like, you know, so your job in, like, you know, we're not in it because we like to be violent. We're not in it because we like to beat people up. We're not in it because we like to shoot people. We're not in it because we like to get in stabbing matches. I really hope not. Anybody who likes knife fighting is a psychopath. But you know, that's just not what it is. Also, if you are in a gunfight, it's a decent chance you're probably going to get shot, especially in like distal limbs, hands, you know, hands and arms, especially because people have a tendency to threat focus the threat. Usually, if you're holding a weapon out on somebody with intent to use it, it's probably going to be your gun or your knife or whatever it is that's in your hand. So if you're getting return fire, it's probably going to come to that area. Yeah. If they're a decent shot. And so, you know, there's a ton of people that get shot in the hands and the arms, you know, that kind of thing. If it goes low and left, you're still looking at a torso thing. You know, most people that shoot are right-handed, and most people that shoot aren't very good at it. So most people are going to dump it low and in the direction there. So, you know, it's their compensatory direction. So it just is what it is. So, you know, part of, you know, if you're interested in defense, you should be interested in preservation of life, and part of preservation of life is preservation of your life and your family's life. You should be medically trained, or at least medically versed. in some way. If you don't have, for whatever reason, if you don't have training available to you, if you can't afford it, there's a ton of great references online and stuff like that. There's a dude named Skinny Medic on YouTube. I have no affiliation with him. I just really like his videos. He does good stuff. Dark Angel Medical, and for not a lot of money from Tactical Response, you can get the Immediate Action Medical DVD. They'll send it to you, come in the mail. If people still have DVD players, I don't know if they have a digital copy yet, but
Yeah, I was trying to sit there and think, do I have a DVD player? I do. I haven't used it in forever.
It's a touch archaic, but it's a good way to get it in there. I guess to most people have like a PlayStation or an Xbox or something like that. Yeah. That'll double up as it. But
no, Mountain Man Medical. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he has. It's either free or like super low cost training. Online as well.
Yeah, there's a ton of good medical resources.
And of course, if you always want to actually have like actual in person, we do it.
Yeah,
nice. Just plug for ourselves.
Yeah.
So like we do CPR, stop the bleed, all that kind of stuff too.
Are you interested in shoving your finger in a gunshot wound? Come train with him. Sorry.
Yeah, it's important. Gloves, wear protection if you're.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was the part that stood out to me when I did the training.
So real quick, fun aside story. When I was getting the training to teach it, stop the bleed and everything, there was I have larger hands.
Yeah.
And in the packs that we got was like the regular medical sized like hand, or the gloves.
Oh yeah.
I put those things on.
Hand covers.
I put them on and they're like skin tight. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's super tight. And the moment I start going to pack the wound, they immediately split. And the fake blood that the instructor was using dyed your fingers or dyed anything that touched hot pink.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I had both of my index fingers from the first knuckle down was hot pink for several days afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that's buy gloves that fit, and it's like, that's a big deal. Especially when we're talking about gloves, just since you had mentioned them, a lot of people really mess this up, and I don't know why. Black gloves don't make any sense for medical stuff, just because it's dark half the day. Yeah, and you can't see blood on them. Like if you're doing blood swipes and stuff, especially if it's darker and low light and stuff, you're not going to be able to see the blood based off the black. You can kind of feel wet, but you're not going to be able to really tell. So like a light color, green and blue are probably the most prevalent. You can do orange too. That'll show up. Like that's what's up. And like as thick as you can possibly get. So that way you don't have the problem that when you're jamming your fingers down in somebody's like bullet hole, they just like split and now you're like finger deep in somebody's potential hepatitis. You know? Yeah. That's terrible. Yeah. I remember I was, I'll show you.
For those of you not watching, that was the sound of Jada gagging in the background there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like I'm really good about blood. Like I really don't care, except for like if it's other people's blood and it gets on me. Like I can see it.
That sounds like caring about blood.
It's more of like if other people's blood is, I'm fine with my blood. I can see someone bleeding and be able to do what I got to do, but I definitely don't want it to touch me. Like, I don't want their blood to touch me just because my mom went through nursing school and I got to learn all about like.
Well, that's just like me and Brian saying like, oh yeah, I'm good if like somebody's vomiting across the room and I can't hear it, but if it touches me, I'm going to shoot myself. Like,
that's
no, I'm just extra careful. I'm just extra careful because I usually have like cuts and stuff on my hands from like a cat or something.
Yeah, really, really important PPE and stuff like that.
Very important to me.
Very, very underrated in terms of medical PPE and stuff that a lot of people don't keep around in their kits and stuff like that are glasses of some sort. I mean, obviously sealed goggles are the best way to do it, but it's not really feasible for most things. Like you don't want to put your Bill Nye goggles on every time you got to like touch somebody, but at least some kind of safety glasses just to keep stuff out of your eyes, especially if you're dealing with arterial bleeds and stuff like that are spewing.
Yeah.
But absolutely. At minimum, stop the bleed training. You can get stop the bleed training from a lot of places. A lot of people's work will provide that for you, especially if you work in factory environments and stuff like that, or even just office environments where they'll do a lot of stop the bleed training. CPR training is really good too. People can kind of fall out just at any time.
Yeah.
And, especially and this is kind of outside the realm of, like casualty care, that kind of stuff. But that Heimlich maneuver training and stuff too is probably CPR and Heimlich maneuver are probably going to be two things that you're going to use relatively often because most people eat every day.
Well, I think the chances of actually using any type of CPR, stop the bleed, Heimlich, anything like that, anything kind of more medical, your chances of using that kind of stuff to help people is a whole lot more than your chances of having to use self-defense skills.
It's
to
kind
help
of approximated somewhere in the realm of 3 to 5 times more likely to use medical skill than you will your firearm.
Yeah.
Easily. I can't tell you how many times what wrecks on the roadside and stuff like that where I've stopped, and because I had training and medical gear on hand, I just kind of became the guy that was like, hey, let's go ahead and help this person.
Yeah.
It's also why I gashed my finger open because I didn't have anything to break the window with and busted it open with my knife and cut myself real bad. Yeah. It was dumb.
And you got to use your medical training on yourself afterwards.
Which kind of involved a gauze pad on it, and then I shoved it in a glove and then, went ahead and did it. Fix yourself first. It's important, but I didn't. And, but, you're 3 to 5 times more likely to use medical skills before you will firearm skills or before you will hand-to-hand skills. Yeah. Really even. It's important. Getting into it, it just kind of the use of medical gear and individual first aid kits and stuff like that. Now, a lot of people have these at home.
Yeah.
This is not what we're talking about. They give you these at Boy Scouts.
Not watching the podcast, it's one of those basic kind of Johnson & Johnson first aid all-purpose kits.
Yeah, so
totally didn't read that off the front.
I did. Yeah, completely read that.
Like these are awesome. I added a little suture kit in here. Suture kits are cool if you cut yourself a lot and stuff. But like ice packs, Band-Aids, Benadryl. I've got some little blood clot stuff that just helps if you have a decent bleed. Those things are expensive. My mom works at Walgreens though, so like it's basically free. But yeah, that's not what we're talking about. These are boo-boo kits. You should have one of these around. Yeah, most definitely. These are awesome because like this does the stuff that your trauma kit can't. But this is stuff like that you will use to treat stuff that'll kill you in weeks. Yeah. And this is the stuff that it's going to kill you in minutes to hours. Yeah. So we're talking about trauma kits. Now, really, when we have trauma kits, we have kind of individual first aid kits. So like a blowout kit. And then we have kind of larger kits. So like kind of a go bag type thing. This is the one out of my car. So on this one, I've got tourniquets stashed everywhere. This is kind of my active shooter bag. I've got magazines, a ton of gloves. Just on the inside, basically everything, reflective vest, a gun, all kinds of stuff, which a gun isn't exactly part of medical. I just like to put guns places. This is America, and we're the most important country, and there isn't another one. But you heard me. And, so I've got this thing stocked pretty full, but we're going to deal with individual first aid kits first. This is the one off my plate carrier, but I've carried an individual first aid kit fairly often. I did for years. I carried one on my ankle. I think that was made by the Wilderness. Warrior Poet Society makes one that's better than the one from them. But so basically, we're dealing with things that come with legitimate trauma. Now, when you're packing a first aid kit, there's a whole lot of stuff in here that I may not be like, oh, well, this is a chest dart. I don't know how to use this. And it's like, yeah, but this is for someone to use on you. Yeah, that's like the thing. People are like, oh, well, so I can use it on another person or I can use it on myself. And if I don't know how to use it, I'm not going to have it in there. But if you don't know how to use it, it's not hurting you because this weighs like 4 grams. Like, it doesn't weigh anything. Nothing. Yeah, it's nothing. And if somebody knows how to use it, it will make you not die. Yeah.
Which is kind of important.
Yeah, like not dying is important.
YouTube it at the last second.
But
no. I've got all my medical training from YouTube. I'm good.
Yeah, you should have at least something in person. At least
if blood is filling your lungs, no.
Yeah, or at least a good understanding.
Do I have enough time to watch a 3-minute video?
Yeah.
I guess if you don't, then it didn't matter anyway.
I promise if you do a medical training YouTube video and the guy who's supposed to be helping me is watching yours and I hear your voice, I'm haunting you.
Okay, so we don't do medical training YouTube videos, so there's that.
I hope you all know that I was joking there.
It kind of just wraps up to, like a good old Clint Smith said, he says, experience is something you get shortly after you need to have it. But so, your medical kit, in my opinion, should cover March. So or at least the first 3 of the March principle. So like massive hemorrhage, airway, and respiration are the 3 that I'm really worried about. Now CH&E is like, if words are hard.
Words are hard. Yeah.
If you have head injuries, if you have hypothermia, these kinds of things, like cardiac problems and stuff like that, that's fine, but it's not like really what I'm worried about here. We're not worried about making them more comfortable to make them more survivable. We're worried about stabilizing a patient right now so that we can get them moved, especially in a civilian context. If you're not military or anything like that, in a civilian context, I need to make this person alive long enough for a paramedic to get here, and that is it. Yeah. Once a paramedic gets here, it's hands off, and that's their baby. Yeah. You have nothing else to do with that. You can hand them your crap and be like, here you go. Like, this is cool beans. But like, other than that, it's not your problem anymore. Yeah. You get to step back, and if like the paramedic's on there and he's like really screwing up big time, you might step in. But like, as far as it goes, like, your Good Samaritan law will cover you for everything until the paramedics get there. He's a trained professional. He's the person that does it day in, day out. Let them do their deal. I would probably just go on home.
All right, guys. So we're having to cut into this. Shockingly enough, this episode ran just a little bit long when we had Steven on. All right. Don't forget, visit our website at impactdefense.online. You can check out our training. We have some really cool t-shirts out there and all kinds of other things that you might be interested in. So thank you very much, and we'll see you in part 2.